Hello and welcome to Your Daily Detroit, where we share what to know and where to go in Southeast Michigan each and every weekday. I'm Jer Stays, and I'm your guide for today, Monday, February 10th, 2020. There are a bunch of interesting stories around town, and we're going to get to those right after we thank our members, very quickly, on Patreon who make this show possible. We're looking to add 14 more members by the time we hit show number 500. This is show 433, so if we do this together, I think we can totally make that happen. It's just a few bucks a month, and it helps make this show go. Join us at patreon.com/dailydetroit, and thank you. On an earlier episode of the show, we told you that the city of Detroit was partnering with the University of Michigan to start doing their own economic forecasts, separate from the county, the state, and the region. The first of those reports is now out. The top line is that the city of Detroit is looking to outpace the job growth of the state as a whole. Before we get into this, I'm going to give you the heads up that we're going to talk numbers, and I'm going to walk through them as clearly as we can, but I know numbers and audio don't always mix. The forecast reports a 1.7% growth rate in employment coming up ahead, 70% faster than the state of Michigan as a whole. That would put the city's unemployment rate at 7.9% by 2024, with 6,700 jobs added. It also says that the labor participation rate in the city will go up from 47.3% to 48.5% by 2024, specifically calling out gains from two signature projects, the FCA plant expansion on the east side and the Gordie Howe International Bridge. Both of these have a lot of government involvement in one way or another. It also says the city will see increased receipts from the income taxes from these new employees, but other sources of revenue will be very limited in their growth due to Michigan state laws. And this is something that cities across the state face as property values go up. The taxes that go with those property values are capped to inflation. So this is interesting to me, and although this would be some progress, I'm also going to call out some things we should keep in mind. As Washtenaw County Community College workforce development expert Jose Reyes highlighted on our show just last week, that labor participation rate is nowhere near healthy. It's about 20 points to go until we get to something normal. Now, 20 to 19 points, sure, that's progress, but still a long way to go. Also, unemployment-wise, we really don't know what's going to happen to the greater economy in the United States. We are assuming no economic downturn. And I mean, look, maybe something's fundamentally changed, but we are in the longest period without a recession in U.S. history right now. So I look at it and I go, well, could something change? The state's unemployment rate is also sitting around 4.1%. So yes, 7.9% is progress, but it's still close to double what the state's doing. And finally, I'm just nervous about pinning so much on big projects, which, look, if we're being very honest, historically do not come up with all of the jobs and numbers promised. I mean, if you can look at Comerica Park, you can look at all these different developments where the numbers just haven't panned out as people expected. And I'd like to see an office of small projects. I'd like to see more focus on these individual things that need help, that need navigation to make them happen in the city. Because there is progress happening in some places, but we need residents to stay. We need residents to come. And I know from talking to folks, it's still a mess to deal with City Hall. I'm personally going to be very curious about those 2020 census numbers when it comes to a hard count of the city's population. When we see those census numbers, I think we're going to see some of these other numbers start to shift. But I will link to it all in the show notes. It is interesting to look at and something to think about. The west side suburb of Livonia, one of Michigan's largest municipalities, is going to lose their Sears. After the closure of the Middle Belt and 7 Mile location, just 2 Sears will remain in Michigan. One will be in Metro Detroit and Westland. There is not a date set for the closure, but there are already store closing sale signs up, and they're saying up to 40% off is already happening. I'll give you my 2 cents and the TLDR here. Amazon and online shopping is winning. Roll back to our conversation with Conrad Kickert for retail as a 3D billboard instead of a place where goods get sold. It's super interesting, and I think that's kind of where the future is heading. I know there's been talk of creating some sort of downtown in Livonia for a while, and that city is attracting some millennial families, and I know we have listeners that way. I know there's folks with money out there too. They best get on any kind of downtown plan or it's going to pass them by. And also maybe join the rest of the regional community and get a bus line to set downtown so people can get to work. I don't know, be part of the rest of the community. It would be kind of a good idea. After all, Livonia is one of the holes in the Swiss cheese that is regional transit in Metro Detroit. Bloomfield Hills-based Taubman Group, a real estate investment company that focuses on retail like malls, has been sold to Simon Property Group for $3.6 billion. Indianapolis-based Simon will have an 80% ownership interest in what will be called the Taubman Realty Group Limited Partnership. It'll be run by Robert S. Taubman, the president and CEO. He's the son of the notorious scion Alfred A. Taubman. I'm sure you've seen his name on a bunch of buildings around town. Locally, Taubman owns places like 12 Oaks and Great Lakes Crossing, and it was founded back in 1950.
We're having an SOS moment. I need your help. Are you a family in Detroit, or you know of a family in Detroit that's in the middle of a renovation on a big old house? Not like a little one, like a big one, like one of my big mansion houses. And do you need help renovating that?
That's Nicole Curtis from a video she recently posted on social media. She's been working around Metro Detroit for a while now, and she's looking for an older fixer-upper to get over the finish line, and well, it could be your house and project. She's taking applications from Detroit homeowners looking to get their renovation unstuck and have their house featured on television. Here's the deal. You gotta own it and live in it. It's gotta be at least 2,600 square feet in the city of Detroit proper, a historic home, and you gotta have a budget north of about $40,000. To be clear, she's not bringing her money to the table, but she is bringing her time and her team. If you want to do this, take some well-lit pictures of your home and what you'd like done, share a bit of your story, and send an address and contact info to assistant@NicoleCurtis.com. I will put a link in the show notes. And if you want to post pics and ask questions, I can tell you this, she is on Instagram at Detroit Design. She is super duper active over there, and you should check it out. Speaking of rehabs, in our inboxes is word that the Fisher Building is getting another round of improvements. You're going to see scaffolding rise around it, as more than 325,000 square feet of marble will be inspected and plans made for repairs. The owners, the development group The Platform, say that work will also begin on rebuilding the Fisher's entrances along both Grand Boulevard and 3rd Avenue. The work will replace the flooring and concrete, repair the steel supports, and add waterproofing. The Fisher is also getting a conference center in the concourse that'll serve 150 people. That's opening in about a month. The Platform has been steadily knocking out projects at the Fisher over the last few years, and I'll be honest, it is so good to see this gorgeous building get some TLC. Detroit's culinary community is in mourning as well-respected chef Jason Osburn succumbed to a heart attack on Saturday. He was 45. Osburn most recently worked at Otis Supply in Ferndale and also served people through his company Felony Provisions. He worked at a variety of local restaurants, including Axel Brewing Company and Gold Cash Gold, and did some publishing as well, creating My Beer Craft Culture before he became a full-time chef. And I can say he is someone who I have seen so many wonderful things written about on Facebook for how he helped people in the community. Osburn lived in Canton and had 2 daughters. Before we let you go, I wanted to make sure to issue a clarification from Friday's episode. Fletcher Sharp, our guy for all things Pistons and DCFC, mentioned in passing a couple of businesses in the Detroit City Fieldhouse. One of the business owners and Daily Detroit listener, Amy, wrote in to be sure to tell us that both her Rebel Cycle Studio, the spin classes Fletcher was referring to, and Ramp Detroit, the Athletic Recovery Suite, are separate businesses from Detroit City FC, both created, owned, and operated by women, which, I'd add, is awesome. I know Fletch regrets any misunderstanding. He did not mean to do that. And people, go check out Rebel Cycle Studio for some body-positive spin classes. I'll put a link to them in the show notes. All right, that'll do it for today. Author Michael Zadorian has a new book called The Narcissism of Small Differences, and he'll be on the show to talk about it on Friday. Of course, me, Cheyenne, Sven, Fletch, and Randy will have your backs all week right here on Your Daily Detroit. Thanks to our members for supporting us at patreon.com/Daily Detroit, and thank you for listening. From Detroit's North End, I'm Jer Stays. Take care of each other, and let's make a better Detroit together.